This is Joe Krein from Elvis2001.net, and we're on Elvis Express Radio. Mr. Strickland, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Can we start off by you telling me where you were born and raised?
Where I was born and raised, man. I have very little memory of that. I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, back in 1946.
Uh-huh.
And that sends a chill down my spine.
Does it? What did your parents do?
My dad was a minister
Mm-hmm.
in an organization called the Advent Christian denomination, which is very similar to the Southern Baptist. So I was a preacher's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Brought up in that environment. Every time the doors were open in a church, I had to be there. So.
Mm-hmm. So did you want to always be an entertainer?
When I was about 10 years old, my dad took me to a gospel concert, and I got to hear back at that time what was the top groups in that business in the gospel music world.
Mm-hmm.
And it really sank deep inside of me, even as a young child. And I started very young, as a young teenager,
Mm-hmm.
singing, teaching myself, and working on my voice and learning how to sing that kind of music. And so it's been a part of me ever since.
So when did you start singing professionally?
Well, it didn't start. I guess it was after when I graduated from high school in '64. I went in the Army and spent 4 years in that.
Mm-hmm.
During the Vietnam thing. Although luckily I didn't get sent to Vietnam. I was sent to Germany and spent 3 years there. But when I came back from that, I picked up kind of where I left off and started from that point. I guess not singing. I guess it was more semi-professionally singing and traveling on the weekends primarily,
Mm-hmm.
because I was working another job during the week. And it wasn't until I joined JD Sumner and The Stamps that I actually went professional or full-time, where I was making a living at it.
Mm-hmm. How was JD Sumner?
How was he?
Yeah. I mean, to work with and as a person, and
well, he was a great guy.
yeah.
He was a mentor of mine, so to speak, and an idol. I mean, he was one of the first guys that I heard sing bass, like was customary with the gospel music. And so getting hired by him and working with him on the road was a huge thrill. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of the top of the heap
Yeah.
for me and for what I was wanting to do and aspiring to do. And JD was a fun guy. Of course, he was an old road dog. He spent his whole life on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But when we weren't touring with Elvis, we were out doing our own shows.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just he was always on the road, and then when I joined him, I was constantly on the road with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good man, and he was was quite a talent.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be awfully hard on your personal life, being on the road all the time.
Oh, it's almost impossible to have a home life. You sacrifice just about everything when you tour like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to maintain a relationship with your wife. You feel like you don't really have any roots.
Mm-hmm.
You're all centered on what you're doing. You're singing. That's the primary thing. And in doing that, you become self-centered. And so it's not a healthy. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a healthy lifestyle at all. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. Were you an Elvis fan?
Oh yeah. Well, who wasn't? I sure was.
Yeah. Can you tell me about the first time that you met Elvis?
I can. It was 1974 when I was hired by the Stamps and this was not long after they had, I think the thing that they had done just before I came with them was the show in Hawaii. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And so the next gig was in Vegas at the Hilton. And of course it was my first time to ever be in Vegas for one thing. And then I was new to the show, and we had gotten there a day or so early, and there was they had called for a rehearsal the night before we were done. And sorry about that beeping. So we were up in one of the big conference rooms upstairs at the top of the Hilton, and I'm standing there with all the Stamps and the band and Sweet Inspirations. Everybody that was involved, we were all standing in this big room where we were going to rehearse, and I'm standing there. In a few minutes, the doors just almost literally lit in my mind. They kind of burst open, those double doors, and they slammed open in a sense, and walked two bodyguards in front, Elvis, and then two bodyguards in the back. Just come in like they were taking over the world. It kind of stunned me for a minute. And then there he is. So then he's going around the room greeting everybody, because everybody was like a family to him. Everybody that was involved in his music, the band and the singer. So he was going around hugging people, saying, "Good to see you." I guess they hadn't been together since Hawaii. And he was just going around being really friendly and cordial. And he finally came over to where I'm standing. I'm standing next to Ed Enoch, who's our lead singer with the Stamps. And he's hugging Ed and slapping each other on the back and laughing. And I'm standing there. I had gone, this was in 1974 now, mind you, and one of the popular things that people were wearing back then, and I can't explain why, but it was popular to wear, for guys and girls back then, to wear these bib overalls. You remember, you know what I'm talking about? Well, I had bought a pair, and I thought they were really cool. I thought I was just this really hip guy when I was wearing these bib overalls. And so have no clue that I'm, what's about to happen. He's hugging Ed and all that stuff, and then Ed turns to me and says, "E, I want you to meet our new bass singer." And Elvis puts out his hand, and shakes my hand, and then he takes Ed and pulls him about 3 steps away from me, not far enough away that I can't hear him, but I hear exactly what he says, and he goes, "Ed, where in the world did y'all get the effing farmer?"
Oh, goodness.
And when I heard that, my heart just, went to my knees.
Oh, my goodness.
And I thought, man, what in the world have I done? Well, nobody bothered to tell me that Elvis, he hated those kind of clothes. He didn't like any kind of denim. Most especially didn't like bib overalls, because if as a child, I think that's about all he had to wear. So he just didn't like anything like that at all. And so here I was, standing there thinking I'm cool. Have pretty much, not intentionally, but certainly offensive to him in a way. I'm sure it brought back memories and stuff that he didn't want to remember. So I thought for sure I was going to be put on the next plane out of there. And but fortunately, we got past that, and he eventually came to me a few nights later and said something else. It wasn't like an apology, because he didn't know me any kind of an apology, but he said something in front of the whole crew again, to let me know that everything was okay.
Yeah. Wow.
I failed to mention that whenever he pulled Ed away and said that to Ed, he then went around the rest of the room as he as he was greeting the rest of the people, and
wow.
mention of me standing over there in the overall, so everybody was kind of looking at me and snickering. You know?
Yeah.
They were all kind of piling in on him, so it was not a good night.
Oh my goodness, what a way to have met Elvis. Oh my God! But then everything was cool though, right after that, and
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it was it was the first trip he had made in that big plane, the Lisa Marie.
Mm-hmm.
And so one night, about a couple of nights into the gig there at the Hilton, he had all of us come out after the show one night out to the plane to see the plane, and we were all just sitting on the plane. We weren't ready. We weren't going anywhere. We were just sitting there and touring it and looking at it. And he was sitting back in the plane, and I was really still just trying to keep a low profile. You know, I didn't want to be pointed out or singled out or anything else. I'm just hoping that I'm going to be able to keep the gig and be able to do the job. So I'm really staying to myself, with the exception of you know, the guys in the Stamps. You know, they're really the only ones that I'm saying anything to at all. But then Elvis singled me out on the plane that night and said something about, "Hey man, you're doing a good job. Welcome to the tour," and that kind of stuff. You know, just broke the ice and helped me then get on to being able to relax and concentrate into it. And then I think about the next night or whatever, we're on stage and the curtains closed, and the band has gone into the intro of the 2001 intro thing, and we're getting ready to start with our Oz on the opening thing, and I feel a hand on my shoulder, and I turn around and Elvis, and he's not saying anything to me, but he came over and he came between me and JD. And he's got one hand on my shoulder and one hand on JD's, and just doing some small talk, you know, and just that little gesture, that helped settle me as well. I felt much better after that.
When did you get your? Did you get a TCV?
I did. It was probably not until about a year later. I guess. I mean, at that time, this was kind of the end of the. You know, this was 1974. So this was toward the end of his life and touring, and so they didn't hand those things out as freely.
Yeah.
When I joined them as they did in the early days.
Now, were you able to? I mean, like with other entertainers, I mean, you're like a hired gun. I mean, but were you able to sit down and have conversations with Elvis and stuff? I mean, just shoot the breeze.
You know, the only time that I got to do that, now prior to me coming, they used to do quite a bit of that, because they would, especially in Vegas, they would, after the shows in Vegas, they'd go upstairs a lot and sit around the piano and sing gospel music and stuff, the Stamps, and Elvis with Charlie playing piano and stuff. And so they would do quite a bit of that, but for some reason, after I came along, they kind of stopped doing it. I don't think he was feeling all that well.
Yeah, is that what you think was going on? Yeah.
Yeah. But whenever we were recording, some of the recordings that I got to do with him were actually done at Graceland. And so there was a couple of times when I got some one-on-one time. There was one night when he came downstairs. We did everything at night, you know, it was in the middle of the night. When we did.
Elvis time.
Yeah. And so he came down one night, I think he was just not ready to sing, and he'd been up. From what he said, he was going through his closet, and he wanted to get rid of a bunch of stuff. He's going to get a whole new wardrobe. And so he was calling, he'd call one of us up at a time, up to his closet, and go through and pick out clothes.
Goodness.
And kind of hold them up to us and go, and of course everything he'd pick out, you go, yeah, I could probably get that cut down there, and sleeves them up. I can probably wear that. Knowing all along, man.
Boy.
He's giving you clothes, you ain't gonna get them cut down, or
yeah.
You're not gonna wear them. So we walked out of there that night with a few handfuls of some of his clothes.
Oh goodness, what I wouldn't do to have something that was his. Now, do you still have those clothes?
I've still got some of them.
Wow.
gave, I'm married to Naomi Judd with the Judds.
Mm-hmm.
And right before we got married, I gave her a couple of things.
Mm-hmm. And do you think touring with Elvis, do you think that's what happened between you and Naomi?
You mean as far as meeting?
Well, I know that you divorced Naomi, right? Or
No.
Oh, you still with her?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't... Gee, I'm sorry. Well, but you said they had to make it hard, though. I mean...
Well, yeah, we didn't get married until 1989.
Huh?
Way after.
Okay.
Way after. And it was way after Elvis's death that we met. So
yeah.
She didn't have anything to do or know anything about the whole Elvis.
Yeah. Boy, Joe, open mouth, insert foot. I'm sorry. Hey, did you have any run-ins with the Colonel?
Not run-ins, but just there was times that, I was privy to stand by and watch him in Vegas gamble hundreds of thousands of dollars at one time, and
wow,
and see stuff that it was not cool to see. I wasn't around him much, but he didn't have a lot to do with us. But he'd do nice little gestures. He bought us tour jackets one year, and another year we were on tour. We happened to be on the road on Thanksgiving Day, and he came by and gave everybody an extra $10.
Well, that was nice of him.
That was really big of him.
Yeah.
So $10 for Thanksgiving lunch, dinner, or whatever. So that's all I could say about him.
Yeah. Hey, would you get gifts like from Elvis for the holidays and stuff, like Christmas?
No, I didn't.
No.
JD did, and as a group, I mean, he would do stuff for us. He would do unbelievable stuff for us as a group, but not so much individually. I mean, there was one time when he was wanting us to record, and we already had some small little gospel date booked, and so we were trying to figure out how we were going to go fulfill this gospel date and also fulfill the recording date. Well, he just sent his jet over, picked us up, and took us to our little gospel date, and then flew us back.
Wow.
Probably cost I'm sure it cost 10 times more money to send that plane over to take us to our little gospel date than we made, doing the date. And he bought us, there at the end, he bought us a tour bus.
Right.
So, he certainly did a lot for the group and made our life.
And all he wanted to do was to drive it once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, out of all the concerts that you did, is there one that maybe sticks in your mind? There's so many.
One night in Vegas, and this was probably after I'd already been with him a year. He turned to me in the show, and he was doing "It's Now or Never."
Mm-hmm.
And when he got to the end of it, he liked to end it on a low note. And when he ended the song, and then he actually stopped the show, and he turned to me and to the band, and he said, "Larry, I'm going to end this song again." He said, "And when we get to this part here at the end, when we get to My Love Won't Wait," he said, "I want you to sing it." And so he did that, When I did it, and he'd do "It's Now or Never, my love won't wait," and then he'd drop "It's Now or Never."
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I went to another key there, but and then I would go, "My love won't wait." And he made me do that about 3 or 4 times, and well, from that time on, then every night, whether it was on tour or whatever, I sang that line for him.
Uh-huh.
And so that was probably the most memorable thing, because he singled me out, sing this line, and then he would start introducing me as his alter ego, because he always liked, he liked the low voices, and he always loved And what we would do is he would still sing that line himself, but I would sing it with him just to support those low notes with him. So that was like my moment in the sun.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time that you went to Graceland, and what do you think of it? What did you think of Graceland the first time you saw it?
My first time to Graceland was in the middle of the night again, so I didn't get a full sense of what it was, what it was all about. It was like the second time when I went and we went to record, where we actually went in and spent several hours in the house, mainly down in the basement part where the pool table is, that room with the cloth ceiling and walls. Spent most of our time sitting down in there waiting for him to come down to record. I was fascinated with it. It was, to me at that time, it was just an unbelievable world.
Now, you didn't put the hole in the top of the pool table, did you?
No.
Nobody will fess up to that. You don't know how many people I have interviewed and they played pool down there. Nobody has fessed up to that hole in the top of that pool table.
I don't who did that.
Yeah. Now, were you with Elvis right up to the end doing the show or no?
Yes, I was.
You was?
I sure was.
Could you see that Elvis wasn't well, but he still performed?
There was only a couple of times during the years that I was with him, and I was, like I said, I joined him in the summer of '74, so I wasn't there all that long. When you consider he died in '77, summer '77. And there was only a couple of times where I saw him on stage, where he didn't look well, and I thought, wondering, wow, what's going on with him. The rest of the time, he seemed really normal and happy. Of course, singing was what he loved to do, and I'm sure I was seeing him at his happiest and at his best, which was recording and performing. So no, we didn't have a clue that anything like this was anywhere near happening. We knew that he had a colon problem. There were times when he'd leave the stage in the middle of the show, to go to the bathroom. So we knew that was a problem, but we didn't have a clue that it was going to.
Right. Was there just a signal or something and you knew that he had to walk off for a minute, or?
He'd usually turn to us and say, "You boys sing something for me," and we'd step out and do this a cappella thing, the Sweet Sweet Spirit he used to have us sing, stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the times that there was a threat on Elvis's life during the shows, like a couple of...
seemed like there was a time or two, I don't have a lot of memory about it, but there seemed like there was a time or two when we were told that there had been, and just to be aware. But it never seemed to be that big of a deal.
Yeah. How was it recording inside of Graceland? There's not a whole lot of room in that room.
I know. I look back on it now and it was funny. Because anybody that's been in a recording studio, one of the main deals about a studio is isolation and being able to deaden the sound so that you can control it. Well, in putting everybody in the room like that, all the musicians and singers and everybody in a room together, just defeated that whole idea. Plus, you add to the fact that whenever he would sing, he'd walk around the room.
Right.
One minute he'd be over next to the piano singing, and then the next minute he'd be over standing by us singing. So you can imagine the engineers in the recording truck going, "What in the world's going on?" One minute the piano's loud in Elvis's mic, and the next minute the singers are loud in his mic, and so they were just going crazy. But it didn't. I guess he just didn't care. But and they, when they got that stuff in the studio to mix it, they just did wonders with it. Song like "Hurt," "Way Down," and those kind of songs that he did in the later years, all this stuff was done like that with him. With him just walking around the room. So and it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, they sound just fine.
I know.
You were surprised too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how did you find out that Elvis had passed away?
That's one of my bad memories. We were all actually at the airport in Nashville, waiting to get the plane was coming to pick us up, to take us to Portland, Maine, where we were going to start a tour the next day with him. And we're all, the whole Nashville contingency was there. Contingent. We were all standing in the private terminal there where private planes come in. And there was a phone call, and Felton Jarvis, who was kind of our leader of the Nashville contingency, took the call and came to us, got us all in a kind of a huddle and said, guys, and all he said was, guys, the tour has been canceled. You guys head home and we'll give you further information. And so we're kind of going, wow, what's happened, And our thought was, as we were walking out to our cars, going, we were speculating that something had happened to Vernon. We thought his dad might have passed away or was sick, or that he was sick or whatever. We didn't have a clue. But by the time before I could get home in my car, then I hear it on the radio that he passed away. So I thought that was kind of cheesy that they didn't tell us what was going on. Here we were people that were probably about as close to him as anybody, and they had to play it that close to the vest.
Well, you're lucky you didn't drive off the road when you found out.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Did you go to the funeral?
Yes, we did. In fact, we sang at the funeral. I'll tell you the story, and it's hard for me to tell this story.
I'm sorry.
Make people believe it, but this is the truth, man. We were on the bus on a tour way out west somewhere, and it was at night. I was asleep. This was not an Elvis tour. We were on a gospel tour doing our own thing, and I'm asleep on the bus, and I have a dream that the group that we were singing at a funeral, and there's more to the dream, but I'm not going to go into it. I don't like to talk about it, but I dream that we're singing at a funeral, and so help me, it's not more than 3 weeks later we're singing at his funeral.
Wow.
But that was just so weird.
That must have been an awfully hard day for everybody, and they say it was so hot and so many people.
Oh yeah, it was one of those days that for every reason in the world is going to stick in your memory.
But you were able to go up and pay your last respects and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Some of the other guys had said that, was there talk of Elvis doing a gospel tour?
Not that I know of. Gospel music was always such a big part of every tour. I can't imagine that he would feel the need to go out and just do a gospel tour. It wouldn't make much. It would be kind of anticlimactic, I think, because he did so much gospel anyway.
So
he might have been thinking about doing another gospel album, but not a tour.
Yeah.
If he did, I didn't know about it. He was. It wouldn't surprise me though.
Yeah. What do you think of the never-ending popularity of Elvis Presley?
think he's amazing. I mean, I would expect it on some level, but not as big as it is. You know what I mean? Of course, all of us baby boomers, you know, we're all Elvis fans, and we think as long as we're still around, it'll be so.
What are you doing now?
Well, I manage Naomi, my wife. I take care of all her personal business and her career. She has a TV show that's on the Hallmark Channel on Sunday mornings that we actually shoot up in New York. And then she does books and touring and speaking tours, that kind of stuff, not singing. I do that, and I sing once in a while with a gospel group. We have a gospel group called the Classic Sound Quartet, and we kind of, because we all love to sing, we all love that music, we do that once in a while to kind of scratch the itch, you know. So you know, we go around some, but not we don't do it for any reason other than just because we love the music.
Now, will you be going down for the 30th anniversary?
Yes, I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay, I want you to hold on for 1 minute, but I want to thank you for doing this for Elvis Express Radio.